Imagine having a strength so great, capable of defeating entire armies, yet at the same time being unable to defeat yourself. A power that makes others fear you, but cannot protect you from your own choices. A strength that wins battles outside, but loses the war within. This is the story of Samson, a man chosen by God even before he was born. A life that was planned with purpose, long before he took his first breath. A destiny written, but not guaranteed, an unbeatable warrior, with a fatal weakness. A man who could break chains, but not his own impulses. A hero in the eyes of many, yet flawed in ways that would cost him everything. And that weakness had a name, Delilah, a name that would echo through history as a symbol of betrayal, a presence that would test not his strength, but his discipline. Today you will understand how the strongest man in the Bible was brought down, not by swords, but by his own choices, not by enemies stronger than him, but by decisions he refused to control. The story begins in a time of oppression, a time when hope was fading and fear ruled daily life, a season where freedom felt distant, almost impossible to reach. The people of Israel were being dominated by the Philistines, a cruel enemy who had controlled them for years. They lived under pressure, under fear, under constant humiliation. Their strength was broken. Their faith was being tested. It was in this setting that something extraordinary happened. Not in a palace, not among kings, but in simplicity. Because sometimes the greatest miracles begin in silence. An angel appeared to a barren woman and announced that she would have a son, a message that broke years of pain and replaced it with hope, a promise that would change history forever. But this would not be an ordinary child. He would not live a common life, nor walk a normal path. His story would carry weight, purpose, and consequence. He would be a Nazirite, set apart by God from the womb, chosen before birth, separated for a divine mission, marked not by appearance, but by obedience. No cutting his hair, no touching anything impure, and completely devoted to the Lord, a life of discipline, meant to protect a greater purpose. That child would be Samson, a name that would become known for power and tragedy, a life that would inspire and warn at the same time. And from an early age, the Spirit of God began to move within him, guiding him, strengthening him, preparing him, giving him power, but also responsibility. Samson grew up, and his strength was unlike anything ever seen. People noticed. They feared. They admired. His presence alone was enough to intimidate enemies. It wasn't just physical. It was divine. A strength that could not be explained by human limits. In a remarkable moment, he killed a lion with his bare hands, as if it were nothing. No hesitation, no weapon, just raw power. A sign that something supernatural was at work. No weapons, no fear, only instinct and overwhelming force. A display of strength that defied logic. But even here, we see an important detail, a warning hidden behind the power, a flaw beginning to reveal itself. Samson wasn't just strong, he was impulsive. He acted before thinking, before understanding consequences, and that impulsiveness would begin to shape his destiny, decision after decision, slowly building his downfall. Not in one moment, but through repeated choices. Samson fell in love with a Philistine woman, a choice driven by desire, not wisdom, a decision that ignored everything he was meant to be. Yes, from the enemy people, the very ones oppressing his nation, the very ones he was meant to confront, not embrace. His parents warned him. They tried to guide him, to protect him. But wisdom often sounds quiet compared to desire, but he insisted. He chose emotion over purpose. He followed what he wanted instead of what was right. This was the beginning of a series of bad decisions, one choice opening the door to another, a path that slowly drifted away from his calling. During the wedding, he proposed a riddle to the Philistines, a game that seemed harmless but carried pride, a challenge that would trigger betrayal. But he was betrayed by his own wife, who revealed the answer. Trust was broken, loyalty was lost, The first deep crack in his story. The result? Anger, revenge, violence, emotions taking control. Without restraint, Samson began to act not like someone chosen, but like someone ruled by his emotions. A man led by impulse, not purpose. After being betrayed, Samson was filled with rage. His emotions exploded without control, turning pain into destruction. What began as frustration quickly became vengeance. He killed dozens of men, not as a hero, but as someone consumed by anger, each action moving him further away from his purpose. And then he performed one of the most unusual acts in the Bible, an act that revealed both creativity and chaos, a strategy born not from wisdom, but from retaliation. He tied torches to foxes, releasing them into the fields under the cover of night, turning animals into instruments of destruction, and burned entire Philistine fields. Flames spread rapidly, consuming crops and livelihoods. What fed a nation was reduced to ashes in moments. This sparked a war, a conflict fueled by pride, revenge, and escalation, a cycle of violence that only grew stronger. The Philistines wanted to capture him at any cost. Fear turned into obsession, and obsession into action. They could no longer ignore the threat he had become, but when they tried, they underestimated him once again. They believed numbers could overcome destiny. Samson alone defeated 1,000 men, using nothing but a donkey's jawbone, a weapon that symbolized improvisation. Not power, yes. 1,000 men, an impossible victory by human standards. A moment that proved his strength was beyond explanation. Alone, no army, no backup, just him, and the strength given by God. At this point, he seemed unstoppable, untouchable, unmatched, beyond limits. A force that no enemy could defeat. But the danger wasn't outside. It was not in armies or weapons. It was growing silently within him. It was within him, in his choices, in his impulses, in his heart. The true battle was never external. Then she appears, not as an enemy, but as a temptation, not with weapons, but with words. Delilah, a woman whose presence carried hidden intentions. A turning point disguised as affection, a woman who was intelligent, seductive, and dangerous. She understood influence, timing, and emotion. Her strength was not physical, but psychological. The Philistine leaders approached her, not with threats, but with an offer, a proposal that would change everything, offering money for one single goal: to discover the secret of Samson's strength, to bring down the man no one could defeat. Delilah then begins a psychological game, a slow process of pressure and persistence, a battle of patience. Not force, she asks, insists, pressures, day after day, question after question, wearing down his resistance little by little. Samson jokes, lies, tests. At first he treats it as a game, not realizing the danger he was entertaining, but little by little he gives in. His guard begins to fall. His confidence becomes vulnerability until, tired, emotionally vulnerable, worn down by repetition and pressure, he reaches a breaking point. He reveals the secret, not with pride, but with exhaustion, not as a strategy, but as surrender. My strength lies in my hair, for it has never been cut since I was dedicated to God. A sacred truth, exposed at the wrong moment. That night, silence fills the room. A calm before the fall. Delilah makes Samson fall asleep. Trust replacing caution, comfort replacing awareness, and has his hair cut. With each strand falling, so did his strength. With each cut, his destiny was being altered, and in that moment, everything changed. The invisible became visible. Samson wakes up, thinking nothing has changed, believing he is still the same man, thinking he is still strong, still unstoppable, still chosen, still in control of his own power, but he is not. The strength is gone, and with it, everything else. The Philistines capture him, finally achieving what once seemed impossible: victory through patience, not force. They gouge out his eyes. Darkness replaces vision, sight replaced by consequence, and turn him into a slave. From power to captivity, from freedom to humiliation, the strongest man in the world, now reduced to weakness. A complete reversal of identity, now blind, weak, humiliated, dependent, broken, exposed, facing the result of his own decisions, the one who once destroyed armies, now unable to defend himself, now powerless in the hands of his enemies, now turns a mill, like an animal, day after day, in silence, a life of repetition and regret, but something silent was happening, something small, but powerful, something easily overlooked. His hair, the symbol of his covenant, the mark of his calling, was beginning to grow again, slowly, quietly, steadily, a sign that not everything was lost. The Philistines organized a great feast, a celebration of victory and pride, a moment to mock what once terrified them, to mock Samson, to turn his pain into entertainment, to humiliate him publicly. They brought him out for entertainment, not as a warrior, but as a spectacle, a fallen hero on display. But in that moment, something changes inside him, not strength, but awareness. Samson makes one final prayer, not for glory, not for revenge, but for one last chance. Lord, give me strength. Just one more time. A prayer filled with humility, a request born from brokenness. He is placed between two pillars, the structure that holds everything together, the foundation of the entire building, and then a moment of silence, a breath before the end. With all the strength he had left, not just physical, but spiritual, he gathers everything within him. He pushes, with purpose, with surrender, with finality. A decision that would end everything. The entire temple collapses. Stone, dust, chaos everywhere. A moment frozen in destruction. Samson dies, but not in defeat, not in vain, but takes thousands of enemies with him. A final act of impact, a sacrifice that changed the outcome. Samson was born with a purpose, a destiny defined from the beginning, a life meant for something greater, but he almost lost it because of his choices. Not because he lacked strength, but because he lacked control. He had strength, more than anyone around him, more than anyone could challenge, but no self-control. And that made all the difference, because power without control leads to destruction. And in the end, after everything he faced, after everything he lost, his greatest battle was not against the Philistines, not against armies or enemies. It was against himself, his desires, his impulses, his decisions. The fight he struggled to win. This story is not just about strength. It goes deeper than physical power. It speaks to something within all of us. It is about character, about discipline, about choices, about who you are when no one is watching, because it means nothing to conquer the world, to achieve power, fame, or success. If you cannot control yourself, if you lose control of your own life, if your decisions destroy what you built, if your weakness becomes your downfall, if this story made you reflect, if it spoke to something inside you, if it made you question your own choices, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. Because this is just the beginning, because here you will discover the deepest secrets of the Bible. Stories that go beyond what you've been told, that no one has told you.